Every business, no matter what size they are today, has always started small.
Yeah.
There's
absolutely.
not one business that didn't start without just a handful of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think
and
that's
struggling and,
right.
and trying to figure it out one step at a time.
Exactly. So I think sometimes, I think as small businesses, we just can't continue to always think small. If we can't let the small business mentality, and meaning that it's the backbone of our country, but we can't we still have to how do we grow this thing,
right?
Because it's the growth that everyone's feeding off of.
Welcome to Little Fish, the podcast where we honor, celebrate, and learn from small business owners and nonprofit leaders like you. Today we have on Kris Chana from Chelsea Place Senior Care. Welcome, Kris.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here today, man.
This is awesome. This is fantastic. So thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem. Listen, one of the things with the Little Fish podcast that we want to talk about is we want to dig into the life of the small business owner.
Yeah,
right.
Those poor guys, man.
Yeah.
I feel bad for those guys. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's fun though.
And you guys, you have kind of a unique setup because you run a senior care facility in Port Charlotte, right?
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about that. I love your story. We'll get into that in a minute. But tell us about what's Chelsea Place. What do you guys do?
Gotcha. Yeah. So Chelsea Place, we actually we're three different things really, but essentially we're taking care of seniors, and we're that solution for every stage of senior care. Okay. But how we do that is we help families keep their loved ones at home safely, whether that's through home care, us sending someone to that person's home, or in our daytime senior care and activities program where people actually would come to us and hang out and have fun for the day. And then if families are at a point where their loved one really needs to be in maybe a facility setting, or that's the next step, we can help that person transition to our assisted living facility. And our assisted living facility is actually how we got started. But
Okay. Yeah, your senior daycare, it's funny. I see the videos for your senior daycare. I'm like, man, when I get old, I want to go to the Chelsea Place senior daycare.
It's awesome, man. Honestly, what I've noticed about that is it really is a place for people to live again. I mean, because I feel like at that age, most of our folks, most of the seniors, the elderly folks, are at home alone. They're maybe living with a spouse or living with their loved one, but there's just not a lot of activity. Their there's a lot of their friends have passed away. They don't have the ability to go out and socialize anymore. Right. So it really gives them a whole new purpose in life. It's really a cool thing.
That's awesome.
That's why I'm so passionate about it, because everything else that we do, home care is a necessity, assisted living is a necessity, but there's something magical though that's about the daycare that's just really cool. So
that's awesome. That's very cool. Well, one thing I want to look at is what's something for you. So let's talk a little bit about the business itself for a little bit. What's something for you in the business that has been one of your biggest challenges to deal with?
Yes, I mean, I think when I look kind of through our journey, one of the hardest things initially, and I think we've gotten past that now, but when we first started out, I was 23. And so at the time, I think just people taking me seriously.
Right.
They're like,
who's this young guy wanting to take care of older people? Right.
People couldn't understand that concept.
Yeah. It's unique.
Right. Yeah. So I'm like, but then I always thought about this too. I'm like, well, what about all the other administrators or people in the senior care space? People didn't just jump into it when they were 55. People had to start in at some point when they were younger, but I guess, most people were just assuming hey, is your family in this? Every question was did your dad start this? Are you taking over the family business and stuff? Right, but the reality of it is that, once we kind of overcame that, that was really overcoming it through experience. And so once I had that experience under my belt and I had some time into the process and understanding how to care for people, the experience itself kind of overcame the age thing. So then, kind of when I look fast forward to today, I think one of the struggles that we have, for us is the daytime senior care and activities program, our adult daycare, is educating families on what that is. There's just a lack of understanding of what it's about and how it works. I think most people just assume their loved one just sits in a chair all day at the center and doesn't
watches
do anything.
TV or something.
Yeah. So it's I think there's just a misconception there, and maybe that's part of the fault of the industry as a whole. It's hard to really say, but there's just a lack of understanding. So I think the hardest part for us sometimes is educating the population on what is this about and how can it work for someone? Because when I look at what we do, it's really like, we're a solution or an alternative to in-home care, and we're half the cost of it. And it's like 5 times like the actual value for half the price. So like everything from just being social, engaged, having some friendships and those meaningful connections to...
and you guys do like dance parties and games and have live music come in.
100%. So it's like one of those things that it is so... it has such an impact on people's lives. Yeah. That like I wish that we could communicate that with everyone in a greater depth. And the only way they ever really learn what it's about is once they try it out. Right. And so it's like for us, it's just getting through that educational process of just come in, just check it out. Who knows if it's for your loved one or not? We will never know until you try it out. Yeah. That's the only way we'll ever find out. And then 9 times out of 10 they're gonna love it, and it'll be the greatest thing you ever did. It's just trying to get people through that process.
Just getting them in the door.
Yeah, exactly. Which I've been grateful for you to help us out with that. With just using the website as a way to educate people through that process. Because before, like, when people came to our website, they were confused. It was like, what do you do? We do all these different things, and now you've helped us simplify that. So I appreciate that too.
For sure. Yeah. I've loved working with you. It's been fun. Yeah. But let me go back, because I was curious. When you said that you were young, people didn't take you seriously. Did you find that with the residents, that they didn't take you seriously too? Or was it more people in the industry that didn't take you seriously?
It was definitely more the industry. I feel like, unfortunately, in the beginning, the residents didn't really have much choice. Because when we first started, it was just Chelsea and I, and we were the primary caregivers. So we
and
actually
who's Chelsea?
So Chelsea's my wife. Okay. Yeah. She's so I named it after her, and that's how we got the name Chelsea Place. So gotcha. But at the time, we were the primary caregivers. We lived there for the first 3.5 years. So yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where, there was a time where I got up in the morning, and at the time to try to combat my age, I would wear like a suit and tie. Yeah. Now I'm like shorts and a golf shirt. Yeah. But, at that time, I remember like there was a lady, Sarah, I was trying to help out one morning, and I'm in my suit, my tie, like I'm all dressed up, ready to go, and I was gonna be marketing that day, and we had like one of our caregivers coming in at 8, and she was gonna relieve me, but I was helping her with like a shower that morning, Yeah. And Sarah, she's and I ended up, I was like, hey Sarah, can you hold this the shower handle real quick, because I was gonna go grab something for her, and she held it, and she's like accidentally sprayed me with it. It's like from head to toe, man. I'm like in this dress shirt, like just soaked head to toe and stuff like that. But
and then you're like, man, I gotta find something else to wear. This isn't gonna work.
This ain't gonna work. But it was cute, because she was like, oops, sorry, and she had this like cute little Mississippi accent and stuff, but yeah, I mean, it was a great experience, because like really being able to actually work and understand like what our staff goes through on a daily basis really is helpful, so when I look back at that experience, it's really great to be able to understand, like on a daily basis, is our team going through? What are the challenges that they're facing? And then, I can actually kind of come to them with solutions because of an understanding that I've been able to.
Because you literally lived it. Yeah. So you lived in the senior center, assisted living facility for how long?
3.5 years.
3.5 years.
Dude,
you lived there.
This is how we got back from our honeymoon. Chelsea and I get married. We went to the Bahamas, and we get back from our honeymoon and land in the States, drive to the assisted living facility, and move in.
Wow.
So we're newlyweds living in assisted living. Yeah, man.
And how many residents did you have at that time?
At the time, I think we only had like 5. We have a smaller facility, right? But we had just started out. It's
like having 5 grandparents living with you when you're newly married.
It was like unheard of. I look back and I'm like, and the fact that Chelsea was able to do that with me for 3.5 years.
Props to your wife.
Oh my God, she's a saint, man. Like that girl, she's a keeper for sure.
Right.
So
wow.
Yeah. The only thing she asked was a bathtub. And then an above ground pool, and as long as she had those 2 things, we were good. Yeah. So we put those things in, because I remember we were like redoing the bathroom that we were, as part of the room that we were staying in, and and when we were redoing it, of course, in my mind, I'm thinking like, let's go with like a shower without the ledge and make it like, wheelchair accessible, like down the road,
Right. You're thinking like,
right. Yeah. But she's like, no, we have to like have like if I'm going to stay here for like another year or two, I'm like, I need a bathtub. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll get you a bathtub. Even though I know I'm going to take this thing out, but I knew that we were going to be able to like make it work, and she was okay with that, so I was like, it was a small compromise.
That's awesome.
But it worked out great, and awesome. It was a great experience. I mean, there is no way that we would know what we know today if I didn't do that.
Because you experienced every single part of what it means to.
I think the most valuable experience that I got out of that was actually knowing, not only like was it valuable to know what my team's going through, but to also know like what a family might be going through, because like I was living with the folks that we're caring for, which is no different than someone living with their mom or their dad or their spouse who's going through the same thing. Yeah. And so I think like when I look back, there was a period of time where I didn't leave that building for 30 days. And so like, I remember the first time I got in my car and went to McDonald's and got a chocolate shake, and I had like 15 minutes of like of this like just downtime, and like this chocolate shake, it was like equivalent to like maybe like going to like Las Vegas for a boys weekend or something. Like there's something about that chocolate shake
just
that was
sat there
so
with that chocolate shake,
satisfying. Like I was just like, this is amazing. I mean, it was just like. Just to get that little bit of a breathing room from the because I think what it is it's not so much like the caregiving as it is that constant like feeling of like, what if, or, like in the middle of the night, you're what if something happens, or, during the day, like just, you just never know, like you're kind of always on edge, like to make sure people are okay, and you can never get a separation from it, Yeah,
it kind of reminds me of, people with special needs children, kind of that same idea where you're not getting a break, you're always worrying about it, and that's crazy.
So it's like, it's one of those things that, I think when family members come to us now and they're going through this experience at home, I can totally understand where they're coming from. I may not understand what it's like for me to care for my mom, but I understand like what that stress feels like, where like utilizing a daycare center or a home care to get that little breathing room is so important. Because it's the only thing that it just bridges the gap. It's hard to explain, but it really is. It's what helps you get through that period of time. Is those little breaks and making sure you take them. Because it is important. So because that chocolate shake meant the world to me.
Yeah, that's it.
Like, that was the greatest thing ever. I was like, and I came back refreshed. It was like just having that little breathing room. So
that's all you need. Sometimes.
That's all I needed.
Well, so I gotta ask the question then. You lived in the assisted living facility with your wife, or newlyweds. Why senior care? So why did you end up there in the first place?
I know that's
always a question people get, right?
I know it's just the whole story is full of loaded questions, but so I went to school for finance.
Okay.
I graduated, and my buddy and we moved out to Texas.
Okay.
And we were going to open up an Allstate agency, and like literally day one, maybe not day one. All right, I gotta give a little more time. Maybe day 3. Okay,
right.
Like we're going through this whole like cold calling on like home and auto, and just exploring this. And the idea was we were going to open Allstate to have home and auto, but also to sell financial services.
Okay.
And so like that was ultimately was like, okay, we get them in home and auto, and then we can sell them financial services over here down the road. But I hated it. Like 3 days into it, I'm like, who wants to do this the rest of their life? Like, who wants to like cold call home and auto?
Right.
And this guy's like, you pick up the guy picks up the phone and he's like, you raised my rates last year. And
he's all
pissed off, and I'm just like, sir,
tough.
I didn't do it. And I apologize. And just getting yelled at all day like that. Like it was just not fun. I'm like, this is not for me. So really, like within about 2 or 3 months, I was like, I'm done. And we actually moved back to Orlando. And I'm like, what do I do now? What's the next step? So part of this process, and it's kind of really when I look back at this, like to me, it's really kind of a God, like God led me in this direction. I had no idea at the time. Now it's easy to look back and be like, oh, I now I know what you were doing, God, thanks. But at the time I had no clue where we were going with this. And so long story short, what ended up happening is I came back to Orlando, and my friend, his dad had just opened up a small 6-bed assisted living facility in DeLand. And then my dad had a friend who was a lawyer in Orlando who was holding the note on a piece of property in Port Charlotte. That was a 12-bed assisted living facility.
Okay.
And so like I went to this. I went to my buddy's dad. I went to his assisted living facility to experience it for the day. And I went there and I was like, man, it's like hanging out with grandma and grandpa. Like this is cool. I can totally see myself doing this.
Right.
I didn't realize at the time, that it's not as much medical. As it is hospitality. And I think because of maybe what I've always loved about sales is kind of that hospitality aspect to it. I always felt like for me, I'm not like a good hardcore salesman, but if I believe in something, I can pretty much sell anything I believe in. Yeah. I just naturally have that excitement about something
and like connecting with people.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, what I realized is that was just a hospitality service-based industry, and all we're doing is helping to support it with medical components, but we're not the one making the medical decisions. We're just like you would facilitate for your own child.
Yeah.
You would go to see the doctor. You're just trying to figure out which doctor do I go see.
Yeah.
And you work through it that way. So you look at assisted living, and it's really like that. I mean, you're taking care of everyone, but you're just allocating the resources from a medical standpoint, and you're just trying to figure out, okay, well, who do I need to go see? There's a cardiologist, a doctor. A lot of the times these things are set up, but if we have an incident, we're just facilitating services. Or do they need in-home, Medicare home health, like PT, OT, wound care, but we're not doing any of it. We're just facilitating.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is I think that there's a parallel to a lot of businesses with that, in the sense that we're all serving people.
Exactly.
Right? And we're all advocating for people, whether it's, senior care or marketing 100%. Or you've got a lawn care business, right? At the end of the day, you're seeing what the person's need is and finding the best solution.
And so when I go back to like insurance versus what I'm doing now, it's just I believe more in the hospitality angle. Like that was just my passion was over here.
Yeah.
Insurance wasn't. I'm sure for someone else, insurance might be. But for me, serving people like the way we serve them, in the senior care space is what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know that until I got in that little ALF. And I was like, man, this is really cool. I can totally see myself doing it. So then of course that led to the conversation with my dad's friend. His name was Jay. And I had to go to Jay and say, hey, this is my plan. I went and saw this. This guy's going to be my mentor, Greg. He's going to kind of help me like walk through this process. And, Jay, would you be willing to let me assume the note that's on this building? And so he was, he agreed to that. And then, this is kind of like all without really knowing a lot of history of this building.
Yeah.
So I go down there and and on the first day, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go down there, sleep in it, renovate it. And like, we'll get it up and I like go down there and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm like, I told Chelsea, I sent her a video and she's like, what did you get us into? And I'm like, there's no way I can stay here tonight. Like there's no way. So like for 3 nights, I ended up like staying in a hotel while I fixed it up and made it like secure and created a little space inside that I'm like, okay, like I feel comfortable like in this little area, and then slowly but surely, like, we started to fix it up and redo everything. And
then you told Chelsea, hey, we're moving in. Exactly. And she was like, let's do it. I mean, there's a conversation.
I know. Look, so at that point in time, we were engaged. We weren't yet married. She was finishing up school at UF.
Okay.
I was pursuing this career here. So we kind of meet up on the weekends occasionally. And so sometimes she'd come down. I might go up to UF for a little bit, depending on kind of where we were. And then, but at that point in time, we were already engaged, so like, other than that, I was like, all right, if I put her name on the building, maybe she can't get out of this thing, I'm just kidding. But that was kind of,
you're kidding, but you're not.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was like, man, this girl, she's a keeper, But anyways, shortly after that, we got married and then
you moved in.
Yeah,
I love it. That's such a cool story.
Yeah.
And such a, you're all in with this thing.
Oh, 100%. Like, and that's the one thing that, like, recently, like, I've really like amped that up too. I mean, like, because what I've realized is that I think as the industry as a whole, like, we have like a massive like crisis coming, like in 20-30 years, if people don't like take a better interest in this industry, in
healthcare.
I would almost say specifically senior care. Because like, no one really cares about it. Like, it's not something that anyone wants to think. Like, most people aren't like, oh, I want to, let me go solve the problems for seniors. Like, that's not a sexy thing to do, So it's, I think, when I look at the industry and I think about, like, it's really an old industry with there's just not a lot of excitement about it. There's not a lot of new energy that's come to it. When I went to some of the national conferences that I've been to for the industry, it's nothing like going to a conference that's got like in a real estate or in the podcasting world or the tech space or you go to a conference in that world and you go to a conference in my world and it's like it's like there's just no.
I think that's probably true with a lot of healthcare stuff.
I mean, so it's but I would say like in some healthcare spaces where you have like new innovative technology involved, like it's still like it's really there's a lot of excitement there, because like you got like innovative change that could potentially change the world, but it's changing the world for the younger population, So it's like this care space for seniors is just kind of like a, it's just not something that I think a lot of people want to do.
And maybe it says something, and we could go into a whole thing, we won't now, but maybe it says something about our society and our view towards the older population, just in general.
Well, and I think too, like, just even the fact that like we don't want to think about it really,
it's scary.
like we want to we want to be invincible and think, we don't want to think about
we
our
live
mortality.
forever, man.
That's right, so it's like I think even that alone can be tough, so and as a result of that, we may not want to like actually look into that space.
So we push it away.
Just kind of like,
well, I mean, props to you for bringing it back. But let me get back into something a little bit more practical with, so how many employees do you have?
So right now we are around 50 employees.
50 employees. Yeah, so you guys are
and I would say the bulk of that is in our home care.
Okay.
So we recently opened up a home care agency, and we have around 30 employees in our home care agency. So and the reason why we'd have more people in that space is because we're actually one-on-one in people's homes, as opposed to like our daycare center where we're caring for a lot more people in our daycare center, but it's a shared space, so like we might on a daily basis we're caring somewhere between 30 and 35 people in our daycare, but then we have a total of around 85 people that actually come through our daycare on a weekly basis, but we can do that with a team of around 7 people, so it's different than like being in like 20 to 30 people's homes, or we might have one person who's a 24-hour case and we're in that home 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we might have like 3 to 4 caregivers that just service that one person.
I gotcha. So and they kind of rotate.
Yeah, exactly.
Around.
So it just really depends on the needs and stuff like that. And so yeah. But.
So that's a pretty good amount of employees. Like what's something that maybe a challenge in managing that many people, or something you've learned, kind of a nugget that you've learned in management from that perspective.
When I look back at like kind of my own journey, and one of the things that I think I struggled with initially was control. Like I feel like I had to be a part of every single decision. Like and as a result of that, I know looking back that I was actually preventing my team from being able to lead, like, without having to reach out to me for everything, so now giving that control up and giving it up to the right people and empowering them to really, like, so each one of our teams, like, so we have assisted living, home care, and our senior daycare. Each one of those are actually run by one person who's our administrator or executive director, and then under her she will have like another 1 or 2 people. So we'd have like an assistant to her that'd be kind of a direct number 2 report, and then we're always trying to train up a 3rd person to kind of be sharing in those responsibilities. So there's always like a triple braided cord, and each something happens or someone takes a vacation,
you've got a backup.
Exactly. But also the idea was just that they would teach each other how to run, the facility. Like we would say, hey, this is what we stand for. I mean, we're all here for this reason. Like these are the things. Here's the kind of the basis of like our foundation. But like giving them the freedom to run their place the way they need to run it. And allowing them to do that. And that not only was it freeing for me, but it totally changed the way our culture is. It totally changed because they all started to develop their own like. They all have their own ecosystem in a sense. And
they took ownership. They valued it.
And honestly, the ownership they took is so much greater than anything I was ever trying to instill in them.
Yeah,
that's what. When I look back, and even recently too, like it's so cool to see how that like has just evolved.
Yeah.
And the ownership they have taken in, what they're doing. It's really incredible. Like it blows my mind. Like I'm like, I don't know why I didn't do this sooner. Like that's a lot less work for me.
Well, but that's the thing,
empowered.
That control, I think every business owner, every leader deals with that at some point, where it's like, at what point do I let go of control?
Right.
How much control do I let go of? I mean, I deal with that. It's like, where am I going to lose the vision for the company? Is somebody going to take it a different direction I don't want to go in?
Right.
And then kind of you're shepherding that whole thing, but at the same time, it's a whole lot of letting go.
Oh yeah. No, and it didn't have, so like, it wasn't like I just let it go overnight. It's like, I let it go over the last 3 years, but I feel like I finally have walked into a space where like in the last 6 months, like it's like at a point now where like it really has like, I'm like, there's so many things that happen on a daily basis that I'm not aware of, and I don't need to be.
Yeah.
And it was like being comfortable with that.
Right.
Like meaning, do I trust this person to make these decisions? And if I do, then why do I need to worry about what the outcome of it was, or even if like why do I even have to know about it? If I fully trust this person to make the right decision.
That's true. In fact, we got Ryan running the cameras back here today, and Ryan works for me. And it's like, okay, so I put him on the spot a little bit, but I deal with that. I mean, I totally trust this guy. He knows everything, especially when it comes to creative video design. And I give him the ball, but I still deal with like being a control freak, right?
I mean, yeah, a little bit, but but it's good because I look up to you and I'm learning a lot in it all. So I mean, it's good to. I mean, if you just give me it fully, it does give me ownership, but at the same time, I like to learn and grow, especially because you've been in the industry a little bit longer than I have, but.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. We all learn. That's what we learn from each other. And honestly, that's one of the reasons, even with this podcast, is like how there are so many. One of the things I've realized is these spotlights throughout the big stat I always talk about is there's 28 million small businesses in the country. Right. And 22 million of those. Right. So a huge percentage of those are independently owned. Or they're a partnership. In other words, they're very, very, very small. Sure. And they're the backbone of our economy. Right. And so there's all of these small business owners that are out doing amazing things, nonprofit leaders that are doing amazing things. They're running amazing businesses. We can learn from them, but we don't. We tend to all focus on the people that are uber successful the way we define success. So, they're making 100%. Billions of dollars and whatever.
Right. But, and I think that, what I've learned too, like through this process a little bit is the, because like there was a point in time where we were a small business without a clear destination. And so I noticed the biggest difference between our business then and the business that we have now is that I felt like back then, we didn't have as big of a buy-in from our team because there wasn't like a clear path to where we were going. And like today we have such a clear path to where we're headed that the buy-in is just so much greater. So the sense of ownership and responsibility, it almost like is like having that clear vision and a clear path of like, okay, here's where we're going. And like people are coming on board now and they're like they've bought into they see that. And so now that's like, I don't have to motivate people to do things on a daily basis that we would want to do because everyone's bought into like where we're going, And so I think that's the hardest part. Sometimes when I look at like us as a small business, like previously, like in our past, like I felt like we were the small business that like struggled where it became a lot of work for us, and it was like, for me, it was like a lot of work to manage people. Like I hated it, and it was just like, it was frustrating because like, it was like every staff meeting was the same thing over and over again. It was like, I was like, come on guys, like really, so, and then it was like always like trying to find these like ways, like how do we.
So, well, with that, what's the thing that clicked? Cause I'm curious, because my question was going to be, and you're already answering it. Okay. What would you tell somebody that was in your situation, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever, I think you said 3. What is it that clicked that changed that for you? I know it happened over time, but
and I have to like, and it's weird because I still look at a lot of larger businesses but they're still small businesses to me.
Well, small businesses can go all the way up to 500 employees or something
so
like
I'm saying
that.
Like there's still like, but like what happened was really kind of this like, era of just, there was probably about a 6 or 7 year period where I was like, what am I doing now? You know, like, I mean, I got this assisted living facility to capacity, it's full. And now it's like, okay, what do we do next? You know? And like through that process, I was kind of like confused, lost, like, you know, that's where I was trying to figure out, that's where I was getting frustrated because it became work because there wasn't like a clear destination. And so through asking myself that question of like, well, you know, what is this my calling? Is this what, you know, is this what God had called me to do? Is there something else? What do I do now? So through that, like I really, and I got to give a lot of credit, I think, to like probably Grant Cardone, you know, because when I read the, like, you know, be obsessed or be average, the 10X rule, you know, I really, that made me look at our business like in a totally different light. Like I realized in that time that, well, you know, why am I thinking so small? You know, why am I thinking like about, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 locations? You know, why am I treating it that way? Like, why not make this like a movement where, you know, when we look at senior care in general, like 20 years from now, that we could look at senior care and be like, you know, Chelsea Place could be a pivotal, you know, reason why the entire industry changed, you know? And so like all of a sudden, like I'm thinking like this, and then I was at a meeting in January of 2017, I think it was. And they asked, what's your BHAG? And I was like, what's a BHAG? You know, and this guy was, it's your, you know, big, hairy, audacious goal. And so we were sitting around the table, and everyone for the most part was like maybe like double their revenue or like 20% higher next year. And I wrote down like 100 locations. And for some reason it was exciting. I was still like, didn't believe it when I wrote it, but it was exciting. I was like, it actually was like, that'd be kind of cool, you know? Like, and then the more I like told people or talked about that, the more real it became. And then, you know, I was kind of going through that whole like process of trying to understand, like, you know, how do I do that? How do we get to that level? What do I need to do? Who else has done that? And I started asking all those questions and researching and all that kind of stuff. And then I started like learning about, you know, Sam Walton. And I know Walmart's massive, but it started out as a mom and pop business. He was a small business, you know? And so like seeing how one guy could take something that was so small and grow. I mean, you look at what it is today. I know it's not what it was when he first started, but the fact that vision was set and cast by one man,
one guy,
you know.
So then you got obsessed with what does it look like to take this vision, this goal, to its end.
Exactly. And then it even evolved even to like 2 weeks ago. I remember I got a phone call from I had two people reach out to me. One guy reached out to me from Kenya. That like somehow found Chelsea Place adult daycare.
Wow.
like from Kenya. Like I was like, how did that even happen? Maybe the new website. I don't know. But so I had that happen, and then I had another guy that had reached out to me from Nicaragua, and these two people are basically trying to solve world senior issues, in their country.
Nice.
Like, and they had reached out to us, you know, as to just to kind of explore some different, they like asked me about what we're doing and what are we seeing in America versus, you know, what's taking place in their industry.
That's cool.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, you know, man, this world is really so freaking big. Like,
it's big and it's small. Because we're connected.
And so I think for me, like the evolution of that, like going from just, okay, well, how do we scale this thing in just America to how do we scale this thing, you know, to the entire world. And that's so then now like my new mission became, and it was a kind of a personal mission, was to transform the lives of, you know, 2.1 billion seniors worldwide. And so that was like, and that's like that mission that I know for the rest of my life I can commit to. And it'll take my lifetime to fulfill that, you know.
And that's so cool. And what's awesome about it, what I love about it the most is once you get that big vision and you're just stuck on it, then the little things that were bothering you down here, they just go away.
That's what I'm saying. That's why work became like it is my energy. Like I feed on it. Like you know, it's hard for me to go like too long on like a vacation or a weekend or you know, like I get like if we have a 3-day weekend, you know, I'm like.
I'm ready. I'm ready to get back to it.
I feel like Monday morning, I'm like, let's go. I feel like a dog ready to get out of the cage. You know, like come on.
That's awesome. And that's what it's about.
So and I think, and that's what's cool, because I feel like, you know, sometimes, you know, I looked at that whole struggle of the small, meaning I feel like every business, no matter what size they are today, has always started small.
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
not one business that didn't start without like just a handful of people. And so I think
that's struggling and trying to figure it out one step at a time.
Exactly. So I think sometimes, I think as small businesses, we just like can't continue to always think small. If like we can't let the small business like mentality, and meaning that like it's the backbone of our country, but we can't, like, we still have to, like, how do we grow this thing,
right?
Because it's the growth that everyone's feeding off of. And if it like so even right now when I think about Walmart today's not growing.
Yeah,
it's on the
kind of lost.
They're going through a death spiral. They like we may not see the fruition of that for 20 years, but my point is they're on that downhill spiral
because of Amazon.
Yeah, exactly.
They used to be the Amazon, right? That took over and now Amazon's taken over that.
Yeah, and so so I think about that with every business has a life cycle like that, and so it's like, for me, I think I know that I'm only going to find that enjoyment on the the upside of the life cycle. So it's like, I got to make sure that business is not just growing in revenue, but that's exponentially growing in just, employees and, not in my pocket, but just that it's having an effect on everyone around us. It's having an effect on the industry. It's having an effect on our employees and their families. It's having an effect on our seniors and their families. It's got to have that growth effect where it's like spreading, and you can see it growing. And then all of a sudden I feel like there's that power, that excitement behind that,
Yeah, that's good, man. So good. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up. If somebody wants to learn more about Chelsea Place, more about, maybe they have a family member that's ready to go to, whether it's the adult day senior care or the assisted living or home care, what do they need to do?
Yeah, so I mean, just to give us a call. I mean, the best way to. So a lot of times, what I tell families too is, because they may not know what they need. A lot of times when families come to us, they come to us kind of like exploring what are my options and how does this whole thing work. They might be in a moment of crisis, or they might be kind of like looking proactively. But either way, just calling us and letting us just give them a free consultation. Just whether we come to their house, whether they come meet us somewhere, whether we just talk on the phone, but being able to have that conversation and kind of get a better understanding of what their loved one's going through. And so really the best way to do that would be to call our phone, which would be 941-676-3411.
Okay.
Of course, they could visit us online, chelseaplacecare.com.
chelseaplacecare.com. They should go to the website for sure.
Absolutely. I check out the website. That's the best part, man. I check it out every day because I think it's so cool, man. It looks awesome, So I appreciate you guys doing that for me too.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, Chris. I appreciate it. It's been fun. And
it's awesome. This is just an incredible studio, man. It's awesome. So I feel grateful. Thank you.
Yeah. And we'll put the links you mentioned. Was it Grant, the books that you read?
That's the 10X rule and Be Obsessed or Be Average.
All right, we'll put the links in the description so people can check that out, and then links to your website. So,
appreciate it.
So I love what you're doing.
Dude,
thanks, man.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Hey guys, I'm Ryan. I'm the guy behind the scenes, and thank you so much for watching the podcast. If you want to watch more videos like this, make sure you click the like and subscribe button. And I also want to give a shout out to 81A Studios for letting us use the facility. If you want to learn a little bit more about them, make sure you go to 81astudios.com. Thanks.